Hello, everybody, and welcome to Truth Bombs. My name is Johanna, and I go by Rutabaga on Blue Sky. And Sherry will put that in the chat because
Oh,
it's not spelt like the vegetable, and people can't find me. So I want people to be able to find me. Before I give you my notes on Truth Bombs, I just want to draw a very strong distinction between the need to keep people informed and influencing people to do something, like get engaged and vote. And both are equally important, but they're not the same thing. And not all information influences people. And truth bombs are about influencing people to vote and get involved. So I know all of us are all freaking out, rightfully so, and we're all freaking out about different issues. But I want to be clear that truth bombs is not about fixing any of that. This is a slow action. It will take time and it must be sustained to work. And it must be done now before the midterms in order to have time to educate voters and give them information that will motivate them to get involved. So why haven't our warnings about MAGA worked? We have never been more organized, more motivated, more well-funded, registered more voters, had such a deep bench of great candidates, had a monster as an adversary, and yet nationally, our 2024 voter turnout went down. Simply put, we are not reaching or influencing voters at the same rate that they are. And and this is the radical part to understand and accept about truth bombs, national issues don't motivate voters to vote. If they did, we would have won in a landslide. Engagement is where the home is, and it's also known as all politics is local. And Democrats have forgotten that. So finally, for the past 8 years, I have refused to say his name. So believe me, I share your reluctance to use it. In this Zoom, where it's not absolutely necessary, I'm going to use a pseudonym, and it may not be PG. So let me share my screen with you. Truth Bombs is harnessing the power of local news to fight MAGA disinformation. And like I said, all politics is local. Politics has changed radically, and yet we continue to do the same thing over and over and still play defense. Our messaging is scattered, it's ineffective, and it isn't reaching or convincing enough people to get involved or even to vote. When we share Captain Comover and MAGA's insanities, voters are asking, what's that got to do with me? And we are failing to make the connection. Our 2024 loss was due to many issues, but king of them all was disinformation. They basically won with memes. Remember the Biden I did that stickers on all the gas pumps? Just 3 words, 8 letters, changed the national narrative on gas prices. It was personal. It hit people where they live. People who go to work use gas, period. Memes are how many people communicate information. And unlike news article, it takes only 2 seconds to read. And in a moment, I will explain why that is critical. So what is a truth bomb? A truth bomb is a photo or a video meme depicting factual news stories from anywhere in the US, issues at the city, county, district, or state level. Truth bombs are not about connecting the national news to local voters. It's the opposite. It's about blaming local issues on national leaders. You can make a truth bomb out of any local news in any city or state as long as you include the address and the date. And then you tag journalists that are local to the story. And I'll talk about journalists in a minute. So who is this? Who are the truth bombers? We are. We are the on-the-ground record keepers of what Jabba the Gut is doing to our families and our friends, our businesses, our cities, our democracy. Because right now he's firing anyone who will serve in that capacity, and he is literally erasing all evidence of his crimes and of anyone not white. Truth bombs are going to center around our neighbors and answer the question, what has that got to do with me? So, how do we reach voters? People are turning to social media to follow independent journalists, which is why it had an outsized influence on voters. Elmo didn't buy a cable news show or a newspaper. Elmo bought Twitter. And unfortunately, there is no longer a trusted, centralized news force. Our information sources are scattered, so we have to post everywhere. And you might ask, why not just appeal directly to voters? Well, do you get your news from some random people on social media? No. So when do we start? Now, the moment he took office, it became Trump's America. And we're going to use a page out of the MAGA playbook and blame him and Republicans for everything. Using this technique, MAGA convinced enough Americans that fascism is preferable to democracy. Why wouldn't we use it to save democracy? So why memes? The sad truth is that Americans are illiterate. Republicans have created education deserts, and Felon 47 has just signed an EO to dismantle the Department of Education. According to the National Literacy Institute, over 50% of Americans read at a sixth grade level. 21%, that's 1 in 5 Americans can't read at all. And the bottom line is that illiterate people still vote. When you can't read, words become the enemy, and we keep using words. News deserts are also a problem. Since 2005, more than 3,000 print newspapers have vanished and continue to disappear at a rate of 2 per week. We are in a local news crisis. A study found that solidly red states such as Texas, Kentucky, Arkansas, Idaho, Montana, Mississippi had the highest concentration of counties with limited or no access to local news. 91% of those counties voted for yam tits in 2024. This is a lack of information, which opens the door to disinformation. News deserts have more political corruption, higher taxes, lower bond ratings, greater social alienation and isolation, disenfranchisement, and rising misinformation. Information is a weapon, and voters have been disarmed. This is especially true in rural places, which dominate the Electoral College. When voters do have access to local news, it increases split ticket voting. And this moderates the partisan drift, and we want that. When there is a void in local news, it tends to be filled with right-wing rhetoric and conspiracies. The Tangerine Terror will continue to blame Dems and Biden for everything, and voters armed with information will not be so easily fooled. Where do I find local news? So don't worry about memorizing this list. We are recording this, and you can have access to it with a link on YouTube, which will follow this presentation. You can also access sites like 50 States that provides local news for all 50 states. That's included in your toolkit. The Nextdoor app in your city is also a great source for hyper-local news. We're looking for extremely local news. We need these tiny local stories to have the same weight and receive the same attention that national stories do. We do that by overwhelming social media with our tiny issues. If you have ever walked into a cloud of gnats, you know the power of tiny. There is currently no comprehensive national free database for journalists. We're creating one, but it's a monumental task, and we can use your help with research and data entry. Let us know if you're interested in helping. It's a vital component to Truth Bombs. In the meantime, we will provide you with some links to some sources to get you started. And I'm also compiling a list of state by state on Blue Sky, which you can access. In an article in the New Republic by Jason Linkins, he says, liberals need to identify the problems that real Americans face and more forcefully blame Fatty Kruger for the problem's continued existence. Democrats need to have an aggressive and coordinated media strategy to surface derogatory information about Republicans, enumerating the problems they failed to address, and filling the news with fresh complaints. That sounds a lot like truth bombing to me. Truth bombs are our coordinated media strategy. This is what a truth bomb looks like. There are only three things on the meme itself. Trump's America at the top. This links the treason weasel and Republicans to every problem, issue, disaster we truth bomb about, no matter how small or local. 2, at the bottom, the location and up to the state level, no further, it has to be local, and the date. This data makes it verifiable for journalists and inspires confidence and trust in potential voters who see this meme. In the post text up here at the top, this is one of my truth bomb posts. You'll see my social right here. That's how you spell rutabaga. The journalists go over here. You at the journalists, and then you put the hashtag truth bomb. This makes them searchable and separates our truth bomb from anyone else using that hashtag. Nothing else goes on here. If you are explaining, you're losing. The non-negotiable truth bomb rules are: truth bombs must depict a local factual issue at the city, town, neighborhood, district, state level, even though state is already too big. Truth bombs don't have to be local to you, but the journalist should be local to the story. Truth bomb photos and videos must be taken by you, someone you know, or from a reputable publication. Truth bombs must depict negative things we can blame on the administration. Don't share anonymous quotes or opinions or random facts, and never share anything about Diaper Don or MAGA. We're trying to turn the news away from him and them and their lies. Our truth bombs must look like a marching band or the Rockettes, whose impact is from their uniformity and their consistency. The uniformity of truth bombs is our coordinated media approach. We have to turn how to turn national stories into local ones. For a while, we had the egg prices were a big deal. So the picture on the left is a picture of headlines. That's very general. That could be anywhere. But we could turn that into a local story by taking pictures at a local store. In fact, prices are an excellent way for you to start getting into the mental space about how local these things need to be. And it doesn't have to be eggs. It can be anything. Go to Home Depot, go to any store and take pictures of the rising prices, which are going to get worse now that tariffs are in it. Instead of using tariffs, share photos of prices. Like I said, they're hyper-local, easy to photograph. Tariffs will cause shortages, which will lead to price gouging and empty shelves. This affects everyone, and they make for great truth bomb photos. The smaller the issue, the better. We are influencing people by showing them how issues affect their daily commute, their shopping, their job, their health, their retirement. Share big issues all you want as regular posts, but not as truth bombs. A great rule of thumb is if you can't put an address on it, even a specific state, it's not a truth bomb. The more specific the address, the better the truth bomb. Mark Elias urges us to cultivate and amplify new communication methods and messengers. Truth bombs, truth bombers. Identify and promote our best messengers and pair them with the most influential platforms. Journalists, social media. Mark also urges us to use the word opposition rather than resistance. My understanding of that is that resistance is throwing sand in the gears to prevent them from advancing. Opposition is to stop them and push back, which is why I've replaced resistor in my bio with opposition. So what should we photograph? We've already talked about many issues that you can photograph, but photos of headlines is just a photo of words. Your truth bombs must contain a photo. Family separations is a powerful headline, but the picture of this tiny girl crying next to her mother being arrested put a face on the horror of that headline. That is what we are trying to do. Ignore MAGA. And they say, that's a blue state problem. That's the Dems' fault. That is actually MAGA fact checking us. We want that. When they are busy fact checking us, we are disrupting their messaging. And that's the point of truth bombs. Don't respond to MAGA. Truth bombs are a bomb. You drop it and go. Our goal is to replace the MAGA narrative with Count Flatula is bad for America. 1/3 of voters didn't vote because they didn't have information that affected them personally. What's that got to do with me? What would they spend an extra $100 a month on? Look for things and services people will lose just to give billionaires their tax cuts. What else can we do? In addition to this list, which is going to be in your recording, if you have access to a ute, Cousin Vinny reference there for anybody, find out what issue motivates them. How quickly did Swifties do something en masse about Ticketmaster's handling of Taylor Swift's concerts? It personally mattered to them. Truth bombs have two equally important parts: creating them and propagating them. Commit time to search for and repost truth bombs. The success of this campaign depends on everyone reposting these memes. Voters can use truth bombs at town hall meetings and demand action on those local issues. If officials don't have town halls, voters can call their office. If they're not answering their phones, stand outside their offices with printed truth bombs. They might not be there, but their staff is. We cannot let them erase us. You can help with our journalist research and data entry spreadsheet. This is a critical component to this action, and we will post a link to the training for that in the chat. So they're big, we're small, but we have strengths. Being tiny has its strengths. One tiny grain of sand in our shoe literally makes us stop to deal with it. One invisible mosquito in our room will have us up and swatting. Tiny can make us pay attention and take action if it affects us personally. Our truth bombs are the grain of sand, are the mosquito that makes people get up and do something like protest, show up, vote. Our vulnerabilities include we can't keep track of it all. Nobody can. Shock doctrine is a strategy designed to overwhelm us and dissipate our energy, our focus. Nobody is immune to it, not even MAGA. Truth bombs are our shock doctrine to fragment MAGA narrative like a cloud of gnats. Science backs this action. Outrage sells. It's why MAGA have been so wildly successful. It's also why we can be too. By using truth bombs to highlight local issues, we are finally fighting fire with fire. Outrage is highly engaging, and the reality of Mar-a-Lardo's America is outrageous enough that we don't need to exaggerate or make up anything. Policies are also on our side. When voters don't know the party affiliation, they prefer progressive policy solutions to conservative ones by wide margins. A whopping 71% of voters prefer Democratic healthcare legislation. Truth bombs are a new weapon that specifically uses social media to spread information. If you're not on it or don't like it, this might not be the action for you, but it's also an opportunity for you to join the fight where it is. The only Democratic leader who understands the power of social media right now is AOC, and she is bringing it. By focusing on local news and shifting their attention away from those big ideological fights to kitchen table issues, we make voters participate and take action. This might also wean them from their purity and principle voting mentality and their third-party protest votes. And I say this with all of my love, but if you're uncomfortable with any aspect of this action or with using a MAGA technique, Choose a different action. There's no judgment. There is so much that we could be doing together. I want to close by sharing these inspiring words from Lisa Gilbert and Robert Weissman, co-presidents of Public Citizen, who are doing a bang-up job in fighting the coup. We have to make hope real. We have to make it a living, breathing thing. And that starts with working together and doing whatever we can. Even if we don't see immediate impact, even if it feels small, even if, especially if, it seems impossible.